I may or may not have been literally using a mirror to check to make sure that I looked good. And it was like, ah, I gotta talk now.
Well, I was going 3 with the countdown, and then I went 1, and then it like I was thinking that would get like a full second after it says 1 before it, but no, it's like 1 and on. So I'm like,
Yeah. No, it's like go time the minute it starts.
right.
How are you, Dan Tate?
I am great. How are you doing, Brandon?
I am also pretty great. You know why?
Why?
Well, 1 day of school left, which is always nice.
Right.
And it's my favorite week of the year because of the Holiday Follies. I love me some Holiday Follies. It's one of my favorite places, one of my favorite shows. So, yeah.
I have to say that this year, like, and it's every year. I've maybe I didn't appreciate this before, but I appreciate it now. Like, the costumes are just, or the pretty girls are just incredible. The
Yeah.
amount of time and effort into building those costumes, the amount of effort to wear those costumes, like, it's pretty cool.
Yes, I know that you have to hold a costume up backstage so that the model doesn't fall over. So, well, today's guest is you and me. Can you hear the Aladdin kids behind me, by the way?
What?
Do you hear the Aladdin kids?
I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, it's fine if you do, because that's what we do here is theater. But they're singing Palace Wall behind me, and they are really into it. And this might be like the 15th time I've heard it in the last 20 minutes. And I'd like a new song, but they're pretty cute.
Well, I mean, and what are you going to do?
Right. All right, Dan Tate, are you ready?
I am.
We're going to learn about you.
We're going to learn about me.
And maybe me along the way.
A little bit.
Yeah, just a smidge. No one cares. We want to learn about Dan Tate.
Okay.
So
now I can hear them.
Oh, they're almost to end this version. Yep, there it is. End of the song. Perfect. The first question was submitted by a viewer, a faithful viewer, and this person writes, Dan, what exactly do you do for work? Is it the CIA?
No.
Oh.
Not at all. It's not the CIA. Most people have a hard time understanding what I do because unless you do a lot of stuff for business, I do. So I work for a company called Progression, and I do risk management and process improvement. It's kind of mixed into one. So basically my job is to look at what everybody does, find out what's wrong, and then tell them how to do it better.
That seems good for you.
All within the risk management. So making sure that we're not getting in trouble as we do those things.
So when you were a little Dan Tate and you were growing up, did you want to be a risk management person?
Not at all.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
So, I mean, once I got past the initial, like, I want to be a fireman and I want to be a policeman, that a lot of little boys grow up wanting to be. I decided sometime in high school that I wanted to teach. I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
My goal was actually to teach high school English or high school choir. Like I liked those two things. And then I started to look into it and realized that it's really, really hard to raise a family on a teacher's salary. So then I really just didn't know what I wanted to do, and then was in the right place at the right time, and I'm good at picking apart things, I guess. So it just kind of fit.
Do you ever regret your choice?
That's a really good question.
Thank you. I told you. I literally said I was going to ask the hard questions. I warned you.
This is a difficult question because on the one hand, this has been the current career field I'm in has been good to me. So I don't know if I would necessarily change it. Do I wish that I could inherit or win a lot of money and then quit my job and be a teacher? Sure. I mean, I think I would still have a lot of fun with that. But only if all responsibilities and requirements for earning money were gone.
So if you were to win the lottery tonight, you would you go back to school and become a teacher, or would you go find a place that you don't necessarily have to have a teaching degree?
I don't know. I think I'd probably still go back and get a degree and make it available so that I could teach. But I also think that there are a lot of opportunities to be an educator without working through the public school system or any type of school system. And I think that would be fun too. And to be able to do it in a way that I wouldn't have to rely on it for a living would be ideal. Because I think when you have to do something for a living, and I know that there's a lot of people who are going to disagree with me on this. And if you out there have found your passion and you can do it and it's great, then more power to you. But I'm afraid that when you have to do something for a living, it kills what you love about it. Because all of a sudden you're involved in all the nitty-gritty things and you have to worry about them, as opposed to just being able to say, I'm just going to go and I'm going to enjoy myself and know that if you had to, you could stop.
Well, that's no comment on that from me. Good question though, Dan Tate. What was the very first show you ever did when you were a kid? Like past, playing on the fireplace when doing shows in your backyard. But like, what was the first produced show you did?
In elementary, we did I think it was in 4th grade. We did a staged production of the book, The Little Red Hen. And that was the one who was like, hey, you need to come help me harvest. And then everybody said no and all that kind of stuff. And I was one of I don't remember which one, but one of the people who was like, no, I'm not going to help you. And let's do this instead. That was the first thing I did.
Did you love it?
I was dang good too. I had people in the audience in tears from laughter because of my delivery of the line.
I'm sure you did.
The one line.
Well, there are no small parts.
There really aren't. And the truth of the matter is, if I wasn't there to say no, then, the story ends too soon.
End of the story. You're absolutely right. Yes.
But then after that, sorry, I'll just talk. How's that?
Yeah. Listen,
but I feel
that's better for me.
I feel like you should answer some of these questions too. But and then I really didn't do anything until I got into high school and was enrolled in choir in high school my sophomore year because I thought it would be an easy class and an easy way to get my fine arts credit.
And a way to meet girls?
Huh?
And a way to meet girls?
I mean, I didn't recognize it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it inevitably led to that, but at the time it was not. It was not in my mindset. My thought was, it's my sophomore year. I've got to get fine art credits. I'm going to do choir because I'm really bad at drawing. So choir will be an easy one. What I didn't know is that, from a fine arts perspective, our choir teacher was very, very strict and had a lot of really high expectations. But then I fell in love with singing, and that led to doing My Fair Lady in high school and Oklahoma.
Okay, so fast forward, you got married, and you and your wife did shows together, or did you do shows before you got married?
No, so Jen and I got married and did one show together. And it was way back, I mean, 3 years ago.
Yeah, we were all just babies when it happened.
Of course.
3 years ago.
Actually, this is going to date myself, but back when Davis Arts Council was formed earlier, in their early years, and they used to produce musicals at the Kenley Amphitheater.
Yeah.
And we did West Side Story. For those who've met my wife, and whatever this light is that I'm under is really paling me out. But my wife was cast as a jet. I was a shark. And so we played opposite each other in West Side Story. And then life got in the way. And so I stopped really getting involved with theater. And as you know, Davis Arts Council stopped producing shows. And I always considered myself one of those guys that, I mean, I was okay, but I was never confident in my abilities to go and audition for a show and actually do a show. I was able to justify to myself that the reason I got into West Side Story is because of this and the color of my skin helped me get that role, not because of my vocal or acting chops.
Sure. So then we fast forward some more, and you're on the way home from seeing a matinee at Hale Center Theater.
Yep.
And Amanda, who happens to be our costume shop manager, calls you and says, "You have to come over to Oprah right now."
Well, so she calls me up and she says, "Hey, would you ever consider or think about doing like a musical show?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean a musical show?" Because Amanda and I were in the same ward, and I was thinking, oh, like a talent contest or something? Are you trying to do that? And she's like, "No, I mean like theater." And I said, I mean, well, okay, actually, let me back up. Because honestly, if Amanda had just called me and said that, I probably would have said no. But we went and saw, because Amanda was in Nonsense, we went and saw Nonsense, and then there were none. And it was really weird because the bug got to me right then. And I had actually, I think, filled my name out to audition for Wizard of Oz.
Oh, I wish you would have, because then I wouldn't have to have been the lion.
And what's funny is I looked through the roles and stuff, and I thought the only one I'd really want to be is the lion. But then once again, that self-doubt of, look, I told myself in my brain, I said, Dan, you're just going to be embarrassed. So they're going to be like, sorry, you think you know what you're doing, but you don't. So move along. And so I pulled my name out. I didn't audition. I didn't go. And then, so the seed had been planted much earlier, because it wasn't till a whole nother year that Amanda called and said, "Would you ever consider doing a show?" And my first reaction was, "No, I'm too busy." And then I remembered that, no, I really did consider doing a show. I just didn't have the guts to do it. And she said, "So you should come down and audition." And I'm like, I'm all the way down. This was when Hale was all the way out in West Valley. And I was like, I'm way out here. And she said, "We'll wait." I'm like, I'm not going to be, it's going to take me another hour and a half to get there, because we had just stopped for dinner after the show. She's like, "We'll wait." I was like, "But I don't have a song prepared." She said, "Just pick a song, come and sing it." So I drove. Funny story. We actually, because I didn't know that that Opa had moved. We went to the old location and it wasn't there, and had to text Amanda, who gave us the new location. And so we showed up, and I ran downstairs and sang a song, and then walked out thinking, I mean, I'm sure that they just, needed some other people to guess against. And
that is not all that happened. Your whole family came into auditions. And
That's
your
true.
wife was like, I remember, because I was in those auditions, and I was like, oh, his wife really wants him to be in this show. Like, Jen was so like, here's his music, he's going to be great. And you were like, I don't really. And Jen was like, nope, you're going to do it. You're going to like it. Like, Jen was totally your manager in the moment. and you sang, and then you left, and then you got cast.
Well, then we got let me back up because I showed up for callbacks.
Oh yeah, there's callbacks.
And I legitimately, and this is so weird because I've never shared this, but I was sitting in callbacks and a bunch of other guys had showed up, and there was this kid there, and I don't know who it was, who was talking about how he had auditioned and
Dan, you froze.
Him
No.
overstayed almost.
Wait.
That he was almost cast in Newsies at Hale. And I was like, what the heck am I doing here? Because I was, I just seen the show. I'm like, I wouldn't have been cast in that show. So I almost walked out because I was like, these are all much better, much more talented people than I am. But I stayed, and then I was cast. And
has it gotten easier to audition for you?
It has. Part of it's because I think that one of the hardest things, I think auditioning is probably one of the hardest things to do in life, relatively speaking, right? I mean, obviously there are far worse things, but of things that we do voluntarily, auditioning is really tough because you're making yourself super vulnerable because it's all you, and you're standing up in front of a group of people who you probably don't know, and you're actually asking them to judge you. And that's really hard, especially, and I think this is where auditioning's gotten easier for me, but especially if there's any sense of your own self-worth tied up in your success in that audition or not. Because if you don't get cast or called back, it's really easy to say, it's because I suck. It's because I'm bad. And since then, I've started to realize, and maybe it's because I care a little bit less about whether I get a role or not. But as far as I'm concerned, like, the right way to approach an audition is to just stand up and say, look, this is who I am, and I'm okay with it. So whether you're okay with it or not, I don't care.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question to that. But first there's a guest question coming in. It's from Heather Ann Jackson, who says, is it harder to audition as a performer or cast the show as a director?
Oh my gosh. It is so much more difficult to cast a show. And I think that's probably also what's helped me in the audition phase of things is, so I did Forever Plaid at OPA, and then Aida was the very next show, and Brandon, you were directing, and your music director dropped out. And I actually didn't know you very well at all, but you were mentioning it at the end after we had finished one of the performances for Forever Plaid. You just mentioned that, now you got to find a music director, and you kind of just casually said, anybody know somebody who could be a music director? And I was like, well, I mean, I might be able to do that. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly how I said it. But then I music directed for that show, and I sat in the auditions, and it is so much more difficult. And there is so much more that goes into it than just who's the best. And there's so many different wrinkles, and it's so weird because you think you've got something nailed. You're like, okay, this is who we're going to cast as this role. And then there's a cascading effect. Well, if we cast this person, then that means these are some of our other options that are available. And so many times you're like, well, if we cast this person in this role, then we lose three of these other three people. And then we don't have anybody to put in some of the other roles. So now we need to shift things. And it's so much more difficult.
You're giving me anxiety just talking about it.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
For anybody who's ever directed, or for anyone who's never directed, for every 10 minutes that you're at the theater, either doing your audition or in callbacks, the production staff is probably there for 3 hours trying to decide. It's ridiculous.
Okay, so you mentioned that you've gotten to a place where you sort of are a little better with your self-worth, and auditioning has become easier because you're just going to stand up and say, this is who I am. But you're also a dad, a father. You have great kids who are in theater. How do you help them through that process? Because it's not as easy for kids. I mean, it's not as easy for some adults too, but they're, kids don't have the life experience to know those things. So how do you deal with disappointment for your kids when they don't get cast in shows?
So for me, it all starts, and actually McKinley is sitting like right here.
Hi, Kinley.
Hi.
And so for us, when it comes to the children's shows or whatever it is, we set clear expectations beforehand. Like, oh, you're doing right now she's doing Addams Family. When she went into her auditions and she started the show and she was doing her auditions, and we fill out this audition form, that's when we have the conversation. Because they're supposed to fill out, well, what roles do they want to audition for?
Yeah.
And so we fill that out, and then I say, now listen, first of all, you need to understand that directing and casting a show is really difficult. And McKinley has done a lot of shows. I would call her a veteran of children's theater.
Yeah.
But we still have the conversation, because I think sometimes people feel like, well, the more time I put in, the better my chances should be for getting a lead role.
Like there's a track or something like that. Oh, I've done ensemble 3 times. Now I should be the lead because I've done it. Like, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And what's really, and so we have that conversation right up front and say, look, casting a show is difficult. And sometimes with McKinley, we sit down and I'm like, all right, because they've been through some classes, and especially with what she's doing, she knows a lot of the same players that are doing the shows over and over again, and they tend to do the same shows. I don't know why, probably because they arrange it. But I sit down and say, okay, who else is auditioning? And we go through some of the lists, and I'm like, okay, some of these are really good. So let's start slotting who could be in these different roles. Now, where does that leave you? Is it possible that you get one of the roles? Yep. But is there a chance you're going to be on the ensemble? Yep. And you know what? The other thing that we talk about all the time is ensemble. For a lot of different shows, ensembles on stage more than a lot of the leads. And instead of having to play one character the entire time with ensemble, you're frequently in 3 or 4 different costumes. I have been in the ensemble in shows, and it's crazy. Like you finish a moment on stage and you're running off, changing as quickly as you possibly can to come back on stage as a different character. And that is sometimes and frequently more fun.
Well, but again, I'm going to press a little harder because you're still a dad first, right? Like you're still a dad. So when McKinley doesn't get the part she wants, how do you handle that with your child? Because all of that sounds great. Let me be very clear. Like what you're talking about, I'm totally a fan of, and expectations, but there's still disappointment, right?
Yeah, absolutely there is. And so I will explain both mine and Jen's approach to it. I'm a very analytical and logical person. And so when McKinley comes back, or Madison, who's also done a couple of different shows, when they come back and they're disappointed, I work really hard to bring in reason and give them a reason why. Like, what's the why behind it? And the important thing for when I leave those conversations is that the why can never be on them. It's never them. It's all about other reasons. So I spend a lot of time explaining. Jen is like, all right, he's done explaining. Let's go get ice cream. And let's make it better. She's very much all right, great.
Yeah.
You feeling a little bit better? Let's push you over the top. And so we work really hard just to make my kids feel important and know that they have worth that's not tied to their success in an audition.
I love that. And I want to move on from shows a little bit, just because you are now the board president of an arts organization. We don't have to mention which one, but I guess my question, and all joking aside, because we joke about this all the time, is, how did you get here? And we joke about it, but why did you want to be on the board of OPA, of an arts organization? Like, what brought you to this, and what do you think you can contribute to that? I told you I was going to ask hard questions. This is one of them.
So honestly, I think that where it started, I've always loved the arts and theater, and similar to the being a high school teacher, like when I was growing up, there really wasn't a lot of information or knowledge. It's not like I could go to the school counselor and say, how do I make a living in theater? And even if I did, it's not an easy task. So when I started getting back involved, I realized that I had reached a point where I can give my time, and help out, because I like the arts. I like theater. I like what it brings. And I won't go into all the details of why I like theater, but it started out with, let me help. How can I help? What can I do to help? When it came to serving on the board, that took a little bit more thought to say, yep. Cause to me, it's not just about, oh, do you want to serve on the board? Sure. Great. And then life continues as normal. I had to make the decision. Is this something that's worth my time?
Right.
Cause that's really all I have to give, is my time. And it was, so I did Forever Plaid, and then we did Holiday Follies.
Mm-hmm.
And I volunteered to help with Holiday Follies. And there was a moment where the junior production was Annie, and they went on. Actually, they were going on stage during Forever Plaid and opening the show. But then for Follies, they were also doing a little number. And I sat back there, and I don't know who it was, but I was asking them if they liked doing theater. And this little girl said, more than anything. And that stuck with me. I'm like, this, to me, what theater, and specifically what OPA does, is it provides a place for kids who maybe don't find a place in other ways. Since then, as I've gotten to know the program, and I've gotten to know some of the kids a little bit better, and even, I'm going to embarrass her just a little bit, even McKinley, when we would go out to eat to restaurants, we would sit down and we would just discuss, and she would tell me what she wanted for dinner that day, that night. And then the waitress would come around, or waiter, and ask, and go around the table just like normal, what do you want? What do you want? And when she got to McKinley would look at me so that I can answer. I wouldn't say that McKinley was particularly shy. She just wasn't sure of herself. Now, and she just puts it right out there, which seems really silly and small, but the level of confidence that she has gained, and talk about auditions, but the same thing with performing, to stand on a stage and have the only thing that you're giving is from you, and have an audience accept that and applaud it, and then talk to you afterwards about how well you did. There is very little that builds confidence faster than that. And so my involvement with the board now is so that every child and adult who wants to experience that has a place and an opportunity to feel that.
I love that. Okay, so we're running out of time.
I know I talk a lot.
No, this has been fantastic. I have enjoyed this thoroughly, and especially because I didn't have to answer any questions. But I'm going to call it the shotgun round. You have to say the first thing that comes to your mind. You can't think about it too long. Are you ready?
Yep.
What's been your favorite show to be in?
To be in?
Yep.
I really enjoyed being part of Drowsy Chaperone.
Same. If you could produce any show, what would it be? Don't talk, just answer.
Phantom of the Opera.
Great. If you could be in any show, what role would it be?
It'd probably be Les Miserables as Javert.
What shoes should the Opera players wear for the concert tonight?
Black.
Good choice. What's your favorite color?
A specific shade of green. Dark green.
Where would your dream vacation be?
So if it's dream, I'm gonna say the Beast's Library.
Okay. Where for dinner tonight? What locally owned restaurant would you say is your favorite?
So there is a little German bistro around the corner from right off of Main Street and Layton Parkway in Layton. It is fantastic. That's where I would go.
Weller's. I'll just say that for you. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I'm in because I totally agree. What do you want for Christmas? Okay, that was a hard one.
I don't know.
Favorite Disney princess?
Belle.
Favorite villain?
Maleficent.
How much do you like Brandon? Dan, this has been delightful.
You did tell me that there would be difficult questions.
Right, that was one of them. Ooh, look at the time. No time to answer. Sorry.
Right? Yeah. Darn it.
I think we do have to ask this question before we end, though, because we ask it to everybody. What does community matters mean to you?
So I think community matters. That statement is fine. First of all, it's finding a community. Communities can be defined by so many different things, by the neighborhood that we live in, by the group of people that we associate with, and it's about finding common goals and working towards achieving those goals, however that might be.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has really been fun, Dan. Actually, I learned more about you than I thought I was going to.
Oh.
And I got to see all of your daughters.
Yep. Right.
So that's always a good time.
If you look really carefully, you might see Jen up there. She just got home. But anyway.
Hi, Madison. All right. Well, we're taking 2 weeks off, so we won't be back until early January because it's the holidays. I'm going to New York to see some shows and to get out of. Hi, Jen. And it's hi, McKinley. Carter, you in there too?
No. This
is family reunion at your house.
This is like that BBC thing, right? Where they could and the poor wife crawls in and drags the kid out.
So we're going to be back on January 6th with our next live interview, and it's Marinda Maxfield.
Awesome.
I know. I'm so excited to have her on. But we're going to take a few weeks off to celebrate Christmas and the New Year, and then start again on January 6th. So
excellent. Make sure you send me reminders, because if we have 2 weeks off, I'll forget.
Oh, don't worry. I will. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, remember to go see live theater. It matters. The arts matter. Support them where you can. Have the best Christmas and New Year's ever. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
this is